Here's a quick case study on how we built a custom quote form for a service-based business. And then we also layered on an automation that sends immediate responses to anybody who fills it out. We built this custom quote form for them that's based on inputs that they would need that determine their pricing. This is a film business, and we're going to go through here and just add in some information. The runtime of the film is important. Say it's 30 minutes. Is there a rush? So they have different fees based on the turnaround time. What other deliverables do we have? We're just going to come and add a few here so we can generate a quote. Can show you what's happening here behind the scenes. So you can see in the console here that we're registering all of the details that the user is selecting, and we're logging these here. And there's some values behind the scenes that are assigned to each of these inputs. And we're using that to calculate a final quote. So if we get out of the console, you can click see my estimate. And then on screen, we're able to see an instant estimate, which is awesome, right? So the person knows right away that this is going to cost $1,100 at the higher ticket item. Whereas before, they might have had to call to get an estimate. The pricing is listed on the website. If they have a lot of different components and pieces that they want to add up, it's much easier to go through an actual quote process to fill that in and actually see the number versus trying to add it up in your head or guess. And so this is helpful for the business too. If people can do this 24/7, they don't need to reach out to somebody on the team to give a quote over the phone, although they can if they want. So you're giving them two options, whether they want to do it themselves or whether they want to be handheld through the process. Here's a snapshot behind the scenes of some of the logic that's built into this quote form. We're not trained programmers, but through some of the AI tools like ChatGPT helped us code this. Went through and worked through the logic and was able to get this JavaScript back out that we can define all of our variables and then define the math that is going to power the quote form and all the logic incorporated with that. So if we can custom build logic based on any business type and how their pricing model works to build out these custom quote forms to really get specific with what each business needs. And it's not something that you're going to be able to find in some of these stock form builders. So this is purely custom tailored solution to any business, which is super cool. So back to our page, we submitted the request, which is great. We're also going to get an itemized estimate. And so let's take a look. Okay, so here's what our itemized estimate looks like. It comes in immediately after we submit the quote. And so it's broken out by the different components. It gives you a list of all the different pieces that make up your total, which is awesome. The next step from the business perspective is to have a rep follow up with this lead. Especially the high dollar amount, we want to follow up right away to try to capture them while they're interested in buying. And so here's what a typical follow-up might look like. And so when somebody submits a lead, we send an alert immediately to all the reps on the team so that somebody can jump in and reach out to them. Now we can send this over Slack or email or whatever communication method makes the most sense for the team that we're building for. In this case, it goes over Slack. And then this rep jumped in and was able to give them a fairly standard response. We could add more detail in here as needed. And the next step for this brand actually is to see if we can automate this response to still sound human, but be able to help push the lead down the funnel 24/7. So if a quote request comes in at midnight, we can get them this information immediately to help them convert right away. Maybe there's an urgent need. Now, taking a look behind the scenes a little bit, all of the submissions from the quote form get pushed through to Airtable, which is the database that we're using for this particular business. So here's all the quote requests that have come through and all the information that's attached to that quote request that the person fills out and some calculations to determine pricing and a couple of other things. And then within Airtable, we're able to build an automation that sends that email, that immediate response to this quote request that came through. So when an order is created, we're using some logic to look for the type of requests. There's different logic that we're going to use in the email that the lead is going to get. So we're tailoring the response based on the type of request that we're getting. And then we're able to input some of the variables based on what the person filled out on the form to get back to them with that itemized estimate based on those variables and some of the math that we're doing behind the scenes in Airtable. That's the quick overview of how we would build a custom quote form and layer in instant responses to any leads that come in. And the next step would be, can we automate this further Part of what we want to build on top of this is have an AI agent come and check the email, say 3 days later. If we haven't received a response from this lead within a few days, that agent can trigger a personalized follow-up with them to say, hey, we noticed you filled out this quote, but we didn't hear from you. Here are the next steps. Are you still interested in this project? Here's a link to book a meeting. If you have questions, book a meeting with someone on our team. Or depending on the business strategy, it could be like, here's a discount. Hey, we're offering a special, get 20% off if you book right now. There's a lot of things that we can do with that and that follow-up sequence. And it can take some of that effort off of your lean sales team and even help with some conversions that are happening after hours when no one's available to respond. Hope that was helpful.